Hello and welcome to the OverShadow ShadowCast with your host Thomas Anderson. Unfortunately it's just me this week. Abigail, our tech wizard, is not here to work any magics. You'll probably have noticed from the fact the sound quality is not quite as good as normal. Anyway, straight into it. We shall miss her, but we shall continue on. What have I been playing recently? So, recently I've been playing Divinity Dragon Commander. It's a game I got quite a while ago but never actually had a chance to play. And with myself at university at the minute, I'm only getting little half hour, 45 minutes here or there to play, so that sort of thing, strategy game, seems fine to play. It's a little bit like sort of Lord of the Rings, Battle for Middle-earth in a way. So you get this overview of the world, and you get you're in an airship, and it's set in the same world of Rivellon as the rest of the Divinity games. You get this airship in which you can do your politics and decision makings and research, and then you go to the tactical map, and that's when you pick where you're going to move your units and where you're going to build things, and then you hit next turn, and then everything moves and you have to fight battles, but you personally can only be in one of the fights. You then have to select generals or whatever to auto-resolve the others. You're not allowed to do them all yourself. So it was working very well up until a few turns ago. I'm only about 6 or 7 turns in. A few turns ago where basically it suddenly got much harder, essentially. I don't know if it's just because I'm not prepared the way that I should be and the enemy is, but doesn't look like I can actually win any fights. The big weapon really in your arsenal is when you can summon yourself as a dragon into the fight, but you're not allowed to do that for the first 2 minutes. So in some maps they just run over the top of you before you can do anything. Because the units in the world map affect the battle map. There's politics and stuff like that in it, which I find really interesting, and I think later on you can get married and stuff like that as well. And the battle stuff's quite simple. You just, build your units, send them off to fight, and that's really about it. And you can summon yourself into the fight, but you really lose a lot of control over your units after that. It's difficult to get them to build, it's difficult to get them to select them. You can select all of them and tell them to do one thing, and that's about it. The good news about that, though, is that once you've summoned your dragon in, you can summon it back out and get some of the resources back, but the resources are finite, so you can technically only do that so much. You can only have so many units, and I'm still not entirely sure exactly how you get the enemy to lose, how you win, because you only have so many units you can have at once, and you only have so many units you can have in a fight overall, and that's affected by your popularity, because it affects how many people in that area are willing to fight with you. But I don't really know how many units the enemy have, or how you beat them. You'd wipe them out, that was one way, but I don't think I've ever done that. I think I have once or twice, sorry, but most of the time they just seem to all give up and explode. And I think it must be affected by some other number in the game, like how many men they can have, because it's, as I said, the resources are limited, and if they run out of resources you win, but I don't really know how you tell. But I'm kind of enjoying it at the minute. Being a dragon is really fun. You're a bit weak at the beginning, though. I feel you're a bit too frail, if anything, but when you do get to really let loose as the dragon, it's a lot of fun, and the politics is fun too. Yeah, but I'll just let you know how I do with that as I keep playing. So, the stories that we're going to talk about, there's only 3. Anthem, there's rumours that EA are not giving up on Anthem, that they are going to revamp Anthem. Currently the game is being worked on by their Austin and Edmonton studios, but we don't know if that's a revamp or just some patches or wherever, but part of the rumour is that they're going to use No Man's Sky as a template. So like I said, we don't know if they're actually going to do this, but personally I think it would be the right way to go. If you look at examples like Final Fantasy XIV, which is now great and was terrible, they did that the right way. No Man's Sky to a much lesser degree, but they have had success since they did it. This might be the only way for Anthem to go, because it has so few players. It's not quite like 76, which while it's terrible has some sort of player base. This really doesn't, so I'm not sure. They don't have much choice really. They've got to do something big if they want to save it. But on the other hand, if you look at Mass Effect Andromeda, it's not the first time that they've annihilated a studio for no reason. It's not a studio, sorry, that would be Dead Space, where they got rid of Visceral Games. It's not the first time that they've got rid of a game. You know, if they'd bothered to put some time into it, it probably would have been fine, that game, but because they didn't, it's a disaster. So, going by track record, we don't really know what EA would do, but I'd say they're more likely to just scrap it completely than bother to rebuild it. But as it is a live service game, unlike the ones that they've scrapped, they may be more inclined to try and save it for the possible future revenue. Either way, I think this, if they choose, that's really the two choices they have: get rid of it or revamp it, remaster it, remake it. They can't just keep tidying up, changing wee bits here or there. It's not enough. Next story is most of Google Stadia's core elements are not available at launch. So there's things like the controller can host your phone and stuff like that. That sort of thing isn't available. There's special VIP memberships you can buy you can buy them just now, but they won't be active for another couple of months for some reason. All that sort of jazz. And the actual the shop in the digital shop for buying games, it doesn't work. Apparently you have to use some roundabout way to actually buy the games. So the question is, why did they release it with so few of the core elements, and from the stories that I've been reading, really terrible lag? Why did they do that? And the obvious culmination of these stories is that Stadia isn't ready yet. It's not ready for release. So why have they released it not ready? Well, it's a month to Christmas just now. So of course they're going to release it so that they can sell for Christmas. That's what it is. They've released it not ready because it doesn't matter if it's not ready. They have to sell it now to maximise their profits, and they'll fix it after people have bought it. It's a trend in gaming at the moment. For example, we just spoke about Anthem. Same thing. Wasn't really ready, but they wouldn't put any more time into it. Back at the beginning of this OverShadow, I said that Anthem should not be ready by, I think it was the earliest I said 2020. They shouldn't release it before 2020. Although I expected to see it in something like 2022. In the end, they released it like 2019. I think it was the beginning of this year, and it's falling apart. It doesn't work, and nobody wants to play it. I mean, Stadia, its pre-order numbers are terrible compared to what they wanted, and it's not going to get any better because the technology and the players aren't ready for this yet. So it's like this is a 5 to 10 year project to get it to work. The xCloud might work better, but that's still not replacing a console yet. So it's just what they've done. They've released it to try and make money. That's why they've released it early, but it's not going to work anyway. Not quickly. So what that means is, if you want Stadia to work, you're going to have to hope that Google stay with the project for a good number of years before it works properly. And I believe that Google have a track record of just burning anything which doesn't meet their expectations. So if you got one, I feel a bit sorry for you if you got one, because I would be surprised if this worked out. Because by the time that this makes sense as a platform, the other big companies will be doing it and doing it better. I read somewhere that Amazon are thinking about doing their version of a Stadia, so... Oh, was it Amazon? Yeah. And by that point, some people like Steam and Epic will be doing one as well. So it's not going to work well for. I can see Google try to get ahead of it so they can learn more, but they're playing catch up on the other guys anyway. So Yeah. Yeah, I hope for people who bought it that it works out, but I can't really see it. And because, I mean, and again, problem with gaming at the moment is releasing stuff which isn't ready, which is why it's out now. But it's not even just, is Google Stadia ready? It's, is it feasible to do what they're saying? And no, it's not. It's just not ready yet as a concept, let alone as the Stadia itself. So it's not. I don't see that working anytime soon. We'll have to hope that Google stay with it if you want it to work or you got one. I mean, I don't even know who the audience is really at this stage, because gamers will have PCs, Xboxes, PlayStation, Switches. They're not going to bother with this because most of the games on it, like there's nothing on it, I don't think, which is unique to it. So why would you get it? It's one of the reasons that the Switch did so well. It's not really the portable stuff, although that is a benefit. It's stuff like Mario and Zelda and stuff like that. That's why it did well. Right, one of the last stories we got here is there is a Bioshock 4. They've been secretly making it. At least that's a rumour going round that, according to a report, people have discovered that there's a Bioshock 4, and there was a job listing that people found to say there was one. So there will be one from the looks of it, but the original people are gone, so it'll be a different kettle of fish really. But it's also going to be, there will be a live action world attached to it. So from the looks of the information we have, it will be similar to Red Dead Redemption Online or GTA Online. You'll have your single player game, which they'll make in a certain way, which obviously will be some sort of sandboxy world, open world type thing. And then once you've done it, you'll be able to keep playing in that, or you'll be playing in an online world version. And you can see that company moving they're moving a lot of their stuff there. 2K, I think it is. They're moving a lot of their stuff towards live action worlds like GTA Online, where they can make constant revenue. And you can't really blame them because it has worked, but they need to just make sure that they release the stuff operational, and not put in things like the GTA Online casino, which is just terrible. Because until they did that, I was kind of okay with the way they did stuff. Like, I didn't like the fact you could buy the real world money, exchange real world money for in-game money, but I could see why that wasn't necessarily that predatory, because you could earn everything in the game anyway. But putting in a casino, just that's too far. And then Red Dead Redemption Online, especially for something, it just doesn't really work very well. And then Red Dead 2 for the PC doesn't work very well at all either. I mean, I just hope that they don't slide on releasing quality products in favour of profit, because they're starting to slide towards being part of that EA/Activision group, which obviously isn't good. But I like Bioshock 1, 2 and 3, so a 4 would be really great, and if they did it properly, like a GTA where there was a story and then a side thing, that would be fantastic, because I love GTA. GTA 5 was great, and online I've had a lot of fun with, even if it's also been plagued with issues for me. I have had fun once I got it to work, right up until the point where we couldn't play anymore because the mission design was terrible. But hopefully by next summer we'll have worked our way around that by having a crew we can use. Then again, should you really be in a situation where the game doesn't work like that? At least with some things like Destiny raids, as much as it annoys me, it doesn't let you play unless you're in a situation where you can talk to each other, because it's just not going to work. There's no, matchmaking in that, because it wouldn't work. So maybe that's something they should look into. Although in the case of that particular mission that we're stuck on, me and my brother, who I'm playing with, we could do that between the two of us anyway. We don't need the other two people there, so why make it mandatory? And we are headset, so that we would be able to get through it. It's just something I don't quite understand. It is a good piece of, it is a good story though, the idea that there's a Bioshock 4. It's just, it'd be interesting to see what they do if you take into account the live action world part and the fact that the old makers and the creator are not there anymore. Levine isn't there anymore. Well, last thing we're going to talk about is that there has been some reporting that the SEC in the United States, people who kind of watch, if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, they're the bad guys in inverted commas. they're the people that pay attention to the securities and investment and stuff like that. The Commission, that's what the C stands for. They might be paying some attention to some things which EA and Activision Blizzard have done recently. So we're talking about the times, I think we mentioned it last week or the week before, where the companies said that they were going to be rebuying their own stock, which caused the prices to rise by an average of like 15%. And then the company executives sold the shares that they had, because a lot of these people are paid partially in shares, and made millions, if not hundreds of millions. And then the project was shut down. They didn't buy any, the project for buying the company rebuying its shares was stopped, but it was stopped without the company having bought a single share. So they might be looking into the fact that the executives made an executive decision for their company so that they could then artificially raise the prices of the shares by 15% when they announced they were going to sell them, because suddenly if the company says it's buying back its shares, there'll be less available, so the price goes up. Then they sold their shares to private interest and then shut the program down without buying any, which means that it's obviously underhanded, but there is a question as to whether or not it's legal because of the fact that they're using their position to make personal gain. That's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, because that could get extremely serious, and it would obviously have ramifications for the loot box laws that people like Activision Blizzard and EA are trying to block through the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, who are lobbying the American government to let them keep using loot boxes and things like that. So it's something we need to keep an eye on, I think. Well, that's a really short one for this week, but without Abigail here, I have noticed in previous podcasts where it's just me, without somebody to bounce off of, the ideas are not necessarily as good. Although the ideas are fine, but it's the portrayal, there's not as much fun. So therefore, I also happen to have a habit of repeating things a couple of times. So I've decided this time to just be quick about it and see if that works better. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please click the like button. Please leave a like. You can click the subscription button and the notification bell so you can be notified if we ever post anything. You can leave a comment underneath, all comments welcome, or you can email us at overshadow.shadowcast@gmail.com. All comments, questions are welcome. Try to be respectful, I suppose, but we can just monitor it at this end, at this stage. And we hope to see you next week, where currently Abigail will be back joining in. So see you next week. We hope you enjoyed. See ya.